Good afternoon. Welcome to Talking Cafe Live. Today is the 20th of October 2021. My name, for those of you who don't know me, is Lauren Giddens. I'm the locality manager for the Sedgemoor Village and Community Agents. And I am honoured today to be joined by Doreen Smith, who is the operations manager. Have I got that right?
Director
of the space in Cheddar. So I am going to hand over to you, Doreen, and let you tell us all about the space.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to come and talk to you today, which I'm absolutely delighted about. And I do hope that at the end of the presentation that I can answer any questions or queries that you may have. But the idea of today really is for you to get a real feel of who we are and what we do, and hopefully in your roles, you can then perhaps think that, oh yes, I think that, you know, this person, this organisation would be interested in, you know, whatever aspect of the work that we're doing. So that's, you know, a bit of a PR job, if you like, at the moment. I just want to say that I'm on the tail end of a cold at the moment. So if I suddenly disappear from view, it's because I'm trying to scrabble like I am now, you know, to make sure that I'm not going to be coughing and sweating over you all.
I think everyone in Somerset has either got a cold or COVID at the moment, haven't they? It's one of the two.
Yes. I mean, you know, grandchildren are lovely things, but, you know, I keep picking things up from them. So there we are. But anyway, if I could have the next slide, please. Okay, so who are we? Well, I'll tell you a little bit about the history a bit later on, but in short, we are there to actually help children, young people living or being educated in the Chedday Valley area, so that you know, they can go on to have good mental well-being, that they're resilient, and really that we can hopefully prevent them from accessing services later on as a young person or an adult. So that's essentially, you know, what we're about. I'm sure you are aware of what villages are within the Chedday Valley area. Believe it or not, many aren't. We do have a map on our website that tells you the villages that come into our area. Because obviously our funding dictates that we deal with, you know, only children, young people and families in the Chedday Valley area. You'll find through the presentation materials little quotes that we've got from some of the young people that we've supported. But I hope to give you an overview of, you know, the other things that we do within the space. Thank you. If you could move on. Thanks, Steve. Thank you. Yeah, is there any more? Should be. Okay, right. Okay. Well, we've got, who are we really? You know, who are we? We want, you know, we want the label on the tin to say what we do. We are here fundamentally to try and provide early interventions for local young people. So hopefully what I've said before will reinforce that. We are also community-based, and we consider ourselves to be a critical friend and also a voice of young people with the experts and our strategic partners, and we do work at a high strategic level. We have a very good reputation across the county with both the Somerset Partnership, with the CCG and the County Council, other forums, etc. We are a member of Somerset Big Tent, and we are often asked for our views on aspects of what children and young people and families are dealing with. And even though I'll talk a lot about our counselling service, because that is our main core offer, you'll see as we go through that we started off quite, well, we are still small, but we started off even smaller back in the day. But we consider that a child or young person just doesn't sit alone. They will have a circle of support around them, and that is whether that's their families, whether it's school, whether it's any clubs, etc., or anyone else and their relationships around. So what we've tried to do as a service is actually say, if we can actually influence others to be able to provide services locally, or where young people and their families can access it in a much simpler way, then that's what we do. And we don't shy away. You know, we say it as it is. Sometimes we make ourselves unpopular, but we never did get anywhere if we just sat and said nothing. We've proved over time, and when we look at the history and the background to the space, you'll see that we're very agile. We are very swift on our feet. That's the beauty, I think, of a voluntary sector organisation, is that we can move quickly, and we do. COVID has actually proved that a lot of organisations in our sector had to move quickly. So for us, particularly in our counselling, we literally came away from face-to-face to offering online and telephone counselling. That will remain because we're giving people more choice. But that's the one thing our sector does very well, is that we move. And we always have moved quickly, even before COVID. And we'll tell you a little bit more about that later. Thank you.
Great.
Lovely. Thanks very much, Steve. Well, like I say, we're a tiny organisation, and as you can see from here, we've been going a very, very short amount of time, but my goodness, have we moved quickly. So it started off with a conversation that our local patient participation group had with the community, because they wanted to know if they're going to be a critical friend to their GP surgery, they needed to know the health of the nation, so to speak. So they actually did a lot of research. They had Awards for All money for that. And what came out absolutely on top of people's concerns was the health and well-being of children and young people. That, I think, surprised a lot of people from the patient group, because they expected to find a lot of issues with not necessarily the elderly, but with people that perhaps were quite isolated through different means. So they were very surprised to see that children and young people's mental well-being was a concern. We'd had some young suicides in the area, and most of you will probably know that Sedgemoor, back at that time, was experiencing a rise in young suicides. And obviously, if you look at our county figures for self-harm and suicide, they're not good, and they're continuing to rise. So there's been some real issues with young people and suicide and self-harm. We managed to get some money to do a test and learn, because once we'd exposed the problems and shone a torch on it, we couldn't back away. So we actually set up the space under something called the Cheddar Community Partnership, and it was very much about us learning our way. And so collaborating with the community was really important to us, and it actually was a very firm foundation for the organisation we are today. We created a team around the community. We did have village agent representation at that. We had different agencies. We had the police. We had community organisations, faith-based organisations. And it was really about us saying, OK, what can we do? You know, because the services aren't coming into us. We seem to be a pretty poor relation. And we were very fortunate in that we heavily persuaded, let's say, people like the county council to come in and offer mental health first aid training. Our colleagues in other sector organisations came in to do some work with our schools and us, and had more of a presence in the community. We also managed to find some funding to be able to enable the schools to do some pieces of work with children and young people. So that team around the community, was very active and quite successful. We then started to be able to put case studies together. We were able to provide where the gaps are, and with our case studies that we gave to the County Council, the CCG and the police and the Children's Partnership, is that this is what's happening really on the ground. We think there's all these services for families, but when you try and come to access them, they're not always easy to do. And then we set up our one-to-one counselling service, and we did that under a drop-in after school. And then we moved directly into one of our local schools, and now we're operating with about 4 or 5 schools in the area. And then we started holiday activities. This is because for some of our children and young people, sometimes home isn't a safe place for them. Sometimes it's a break for their parents and families to be able to, for those young people to come together. And I won't go into I Thrive too much, but hopefully you will know about I Thrive, and that's very much about prevention and early intervention. And we worked with our schools and other partners to say, again, what can we do for us? You know, we're getting on our bike and we're trying to maneuver around our area, but you've got some things that you can bring to us. And we were going great guns, and then guess what happened? Something called COVID happened. But hopefully now we're back into this period now where we can really take that work forward. And just to give you a bit of a flavour, the things the schools were wanting were more parent, family awareness raising about mental health, about where they can find support. It was also about staff welfare. It was also about how can we give parents a forum to be able to raise issues and concerns and support themselves, to doing some pieces of work within schools with young children that had been identified. Excuse me. Yeah, always the way, isn't it?
Oh yeah, always busy, always want you when they're busy.
I know. So we managed to also get some money in for different activities. The other thing we did to expand our portfolio, so now we're not just thinking about counselling and holiday activities, we're going wider, is that we heard that the youth club in Cheddar was literally closing overnight. So we thought, we can't have that. So we needed to be able to do something about that. So we resurrected the youth club, and we were going along great guns. And then guess what happened? Need I say more?
Yeah.
And so we actually managed to start offering sessions via Zoom. We actually commissioned Young Somerset to facilitate our youth club provision, but we are very, very hands-on. We're very focused on measuring the impact that the youth club has. And now we're back to normal. How long for, I don't know. But the great thing is that now we can start promoting it more widely, because we were restricted with numbers. Mm-hmm. So the youth club is a way for us to be able to introduce our services to young people, to connect more with parents and have more of a dialogue with parents, and also bring in some activities that encourage, you know, good and positive mental well-being. And very key to us for our work in the community are our social action projects. So, you know, again, hopefully working much more closely with village and community agents, is that we very much want our young people involved in any community social action projects, because it's their way of giving something into the community and getting them involved in the community at a very early age. So that's the youth club. The other thing that we have been commissioned for initially was to set up something called the Somerset Children and Young People's Counselling Alliance. And this is where we're bringing together pure counselling organisations so that we can develop a a shop window for young people, no matter where they are in the county, so that they can access counselling, albeit online or face-to-face. And we're also looking at identifying gaps in the county. As I said, we're members of the Somerset Big Tent. I sit on their network meeting. I'm also a panel member, and the panel actually approves applications coming into the Big Tent. We had some money to be able to put on some training within one of our schools, a Speak Up, and that's about relationships, positive relationships. And we also had some peer mentoring training, and the result of that, through COVID even, that these young people who had gone through the training did clips of them interviewing different staff members in school about mental health and mental well-being, and that can be found on YouTube. And that they're still going now, because the idea is that they wanted to make sure that they left some kind of legacy as they moved on, to do other things. With the parent support, we give talks, and just to give you an idea, even pre-COVID, I was given a talk at our secondary school at sixth form. We expected 25 people to turn up. We had 53, and this is pre-COVID. So that will tell you the concerns and the interest that people had regarding mental health. And from that, we were able then to identify what other topics they would like discussions on. And again, something happened that had to be delayed. And we're back now discussing with the schools, putting on, again, another round of general mental awareness, mental health awareness, but also picking up some of those topics that are quite key. You'll see our recent information so that you can see what those topics are. The one area that we really want to develop, and again, perhaps colleagues can help, is that we do have an allotment plot, a large allotment plot in Cheddar, and we want to turn it into a wellbeing garden. We've been very well supported by the Rotary. So we went from this, what looked to be a piece of scrubland, into, and you'll see a picture later on, into, what is going to be a really nice plot. We want some activities going on there. We'd love to develop some kind of, men's shed, ladies shed. We know that there is, there are some in the area, but really local community organisations that can come in and use our space and also help us maintain it. And so more than happy to show anyone around the space and maybe discuss, opportunities for that. And then for this year, we launched our listening service for parents and family members of children and young people who have experiencing poor mental well-being. It hasn't gone as well as we thought it might. We've reviewed it, and we're reviewing that again. But it is something that, that is there for people to try, and again, be very happy to, perhaps take some of your ideas on how we can expand and promote that listening service. And lastly, two new school projects, two community projects that we have going is, one is called It's Okay to Be. And this is a 6-week programme that the pilot will run in school for targeted children, where we can explore some of the issues they may be facing. So that could be anything from bereavement to anxiety, etc. And then the other initiative, and this will be in the community, is that we want to pilot our Alongside project, which is basically a very skilled and qualified volunteer going into a family to help them with issues that they see are quite a challenge for them. So it's a short programme meant to say, okay, what issue do you have? How can we help you to achieve what you need to achieve? Very much like the Home Start model, for those of you that know Home Start. So that's where we came from, and so up to the present day. Thanks, Steve.
So much going on, Doreen.
Oh, there's always a lot going on, and we're very small organisation. So if we could just go back to the previous slide, please, Steve. It says our counselling service. Oh,
we must have got mixed up.
It has. Mine has got mixed up, obviously. So anyway, so we'll come on to the counselling, but the successes and benefits has been that we've our counselling service has definitely resulted in that a lot of young people are not going on to require higher level intervention. So this is, they may not need to access CAMS or other forms of support. The team around the community was really a really good collaboration. We are going to probably return to that now we can, although things that I've seen in the press recently may mean that we don't quite know what's going to happen, do we? And we've been so successful in encouraging our colleagues, our partners, to come into our community and actually work with our community. And I know, again, there were more plans, but they had to be put on hold. So we were talking to people like Mind, Somerset Association of Sports Partnerships, just to mention two, about putting some some activities in the Chedday Valley area. And the activities that we've run, we started off by offering one half-term event. And this year we've had a whole summer programme of events with 111 children and young people taking part. So successful. I'm just finishing off the evaluation, but what's clear is that the activities enable those children and young people to feel less isolated. They've been locked up for quite a long time, so they felt very different when they came to our activities. They were able to make new friends, and they were able to reconnect with friends they hadn't seen for a while. And for some, their confidence and self-esteem had ebbed a little bit during the lockdown, but after the event, they were saying, really enjoyed it, raised the confidence, and I want to do more of this. So we're really, pleased with that. And obviously the last one, which is the I Thrive work that we're doing, we're nationally recognised for that work. Our project is unique. So NHS England, Public Health England are keeping a real eye on how that will develop. Thank you. Okay, so our counselling service, going through it, is that we started off with one counsellor back in the day, and we now have 6 counsellors. We have a student counsellor joining us in the new year, and hopefully between now and Christmas we'll have some more counsellors. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of children to support, and there's going to be more in the future. So, we're certainly on the lookout for, qualified counsellors. So in the last 12 months, we've supported 70 children, and that's not bad for a small organisation like me. I'm operations director. We have a lead counsellor. We have our 6 counsellors. We have a services support manager who is our, if you like, our back end, doing everything that she needs to do to make sure we tick over. We have about 14 volunteers doing quite a range of things, everything from social media to our youth club, to our wellbeing garden, to producing programmes for young people and helping out with activities. So we've supported 70 children over the last 12 months. We only employ qualified and insured counsellors that also are registered to a professional membership body, so that we can make sure that they are adhering to the standards of that professional body. We provide face-to-face, online and telephone support. Face-to-face has just returned for us in schools. But I'm hoping with our communications, we had a meeting yesterday with the head of Wessex Learning Trust. We're very much hoping that over the next few months we can return to a face-to-face offer very soon. And the difference now than before COVID is that before COVID we were very much term time only. That never felt very comfortable with me, because mental health issues don't go away when school's out. So now we're able to offer a service 52 weeks of the year, and that does include evenings, it does include weekends and holidays. And that's important because now we can give, you know, young people a real choice. For some, they don't want to have their counselling in school or a GP surgery or a local venue. They much prefer to perhaps have that outside of that, and we can give them that. Our recent figures, and this has only been done in the last week, is that we can see that our counselling service for young children means that there's been a significant improvement in their well-being, 83.3%, and that's 10% up on the previous period. So, you know, that proves that our counselling service obviously makes a difference to people. And really important for us, I've been around a long time in this county working in you know, mental health, so we've got lots and lots of contacts and great networks, great relationships with other sector organisations, so we are able to signpost and we support each other as best we can. And that means that the children, young people, in some cases adults that you know, we're all dealing with, benefit from that close collaboration. Thank you. So just to give you the heads up on the issues, and this is again from the Chedday Valley area, but they're probably not going to alter very much from across the county. What we find is that when we do our reports, which is usually on a quarterly basis, we can find themes. So when we came in, however many years ago, it was very much about peer relationships. It was very much about body image. The next time there was an awful lot of against self-harm and eating disorders. So this is the very latest information. And as you can see from there, you know, we've got a very high percentage of young people that are self-harming. And that is, if you look at national figures, if you look at county figures, you know, that's probably pretty standard across the area. Obviously, there's young people that are suffering from anxiety, and that can also manifest itself in other things. So we don't see a young person with just one issue. We may do, but on the whole, things are a lot more complex than they used to be. And again, feelings around anything. It could be feelings around family relationships, peer relationships, going to school. You know, there's so much that's captured within that. And depression has lowered from our previous reports, but then, you know, the anxiety is slightly risen. But again, it depends on the level of that depression. But nevertheless, we're pulling pure data off our records. And again, body image seems to be a key thing again, not as much as it was a few years ago. But we're still concerned about, you know, suicidal thoughts. Again, that's slightly decreased from the last report that we did. And interestingly enough, what hasn't featured on here are eating disorders necessarily. Now, we know we might have dealt with a handful of young people that have eating disorders, but when we look at our data, we pull off the key issues that we're finding. So that gives us the theme. So if we're giving talks, or people want us to give talks or workshops, arrange workshops in the community, we know from our data what the issues are within our community. Thank you, Steve.
Can't click quick enough. There you go.
He's having a cup of tea, I think.
I reckon.
So thanks for that. So what about community partnerships and opportunities? Well, as I said earlier, it would be fantastic to, talk to people about our wellbeing garden. Now, you can see a little bit of a picture there. But if you imagine that was scrubland, and it was, I put all the little beds in. We erected a greenhouse, a shed, and there's also an area where we hope to run activities. And we've got our veg beds, etc. So be really happy to talk about that. And the other thing we know that goes well in one school, and we're going to resurrect it, is I'm going to call it tea and talks, because informal ways of bringing people together and community organisations together for coffee and cake, tea and a talk, where we can perhaps introduce some of those topics that our communities are concerned about. And that's how we raise awareness of the key mental well-being topics, because certainly when I give a talk, a parent will say, I don't really know anything much about self-harm. I don't really know much about eating disorders. And there's plenty of information and expert help out there. And also within our organisation, as you can see, we do an awful lot. There are opportunities for volunteering for people in our communities. So that's where I would say there's lots of partnerships and opportunities. Thank you, Steve. So I'm going to leave it over to you, and I'll try and answer your questions if you have any as best I can.
Right, so I'm just having a look at the comment section. I don't think there have been any comments as yet, but we do have 8 people watching currently. So if there is anyone out there who does want to ask Doreen a question, please do type it in the comment section and I can read that out for Doreen. Oh, there we go. One straight away. Do you go into the schools to deliver the counselling where the children attend?
We do have that offer. So at the moment, we go into Kings of Wessex Academy. We've offered face-to-face in Hugh Sexy's middle school. We do online at the moment with Fairlands, but we're hoping to move to face-to-face as well there. We are currently trialling a service to Mark Primary, and that's where we're supporting a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. And I'm very fortunate because if you know about counselling, a counsellor can't just counsel everyone. There will be certain restrictions. So often our counsellors can't counsel the younger age group unless they have their competence. But I'm very fortunate because I have a counsellor that is also a play therapist. And we firmly and strongly, passionately believe that the sooner we can give a child and young person help, the better it will be. So we're trialing this at the moment with a view to seeing how successful it is. And then we will, because at the moment we're looking at our strategic direction, and if we have to pour more resources into the children under the age of young people under the age of 8, we will, but we need to trial that. So yes, we do. We also can be seen in a GP surgery. Sometimes we've used a room in King's Leisure. So we do try to spread it about a bit if we can.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Doreen. There hasn't been any other questions come in, but what might happen later when people replay this, they might put questions, and if so, I can either email them over to you and answer them myself, or if your volunteer who does social media keeps an eye on it as well, then any comments or questions that come in, we can answer those. I will also come back, Doreen, and put the contact details for the space in the comment section, so that if anybody wants to contact you directly, they can do so. Steve has put the website address going along the bottom of the screen there, so I'll make sure all of that information is available to anybody viewing. But thanks so much. It has been really eye-opening to see just how much you are doing, in the Chedday Valley area with children, young people and families. So absolutely, like you said at the start, we will spread the word and make sure that people know of you and know how to access you.
Yep, and if you could put my email address in the information, Lauren, that would be great.
Yes,
I'd
absolutely.
love to hear from anyone. Love to hear your comments, your views. Love to hear if you want to work with us or any ideas that you have where we could do some partnership work, and that would be really, really good. And thank you all so much for your time.
No worries. Thank you so much for joining, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Bye-bye.
Bye.